Hey everybody, Stevie T here. I just wanted to show you all of my gemstones. I got them all. I do. I call this a gemstone audit, where I take all my gemstones and I put them in one spot. And not only does it get me to see exactly all the stones, because they can come into your life so quickly, and also they can leave your life so quickly as well, as they are meant for others, not just me. And so I'm just speaking from my own experience here. And so what was I gonna say? Oh, I did this to teach myself. Not only am I organizing like my whole life from top to bottom while I'm on break and everything like that, I also, this teaches me to use one stone at a time when I want to go to it. I love having gemstones in my environment. I always have them with me, so I thought it'd be interesting to explore just using one at a time. What I usually do, when I've been doing since I got into gemstones full on since 2010, is I usually have like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, you know, wearing around my neck or around my, you know, as a bracelet, or stones in my pocket, you know, full on. And I'd meet people and they'd be like, well, how can you do that? Like, don't you just one at a time? I'm like, no, not really. But so I'm starting to learn a new way of connecting with the stones. So there's so many, you know, and you don't, sometimes, I'll just speak for myself, I didn't realize I had this many until, of course, you get them all into one beautiful space. So I just want to give you a little tour. Some Labradorite. There's some Aragonite. So sparkly. Oh yes, I've got some, that's Heliodor right there, sparkling at us right there. So pretty. And if you've been following my readings, or if you have Osho Zen Tarot, you'll be familiar with the card called the Miser. And the Miser speaks about not allowing anything that's material to be our emotional crutch. It's about realizing that sometimes what we fill our environment up with in terms of physical objects can stand as a wall between us and others. And the meaning of that card specifically is a woman who has built herself, consequently, a wall surrounding herself with all the items that she loves. There's some green apophyllite right there. And she feels lonely, but she's like, no, I'm pretty, I have all these jewels on. She's all these jewels and all these gems and stuff. And it reminds me of the fact that if one so chooses, they can fill anything, people, objects, they can fill them up in their lives as walls if they're not balanced. And that's the whole thing, balance. So, which I'm just speaking this out right now, I am coming to a realization, which is pretty nice, a little reminder of how cool it is that my friends get to come to my house and whatever they need, you know, I sense their needs. And of course, sometimes they come to me like, hey, I've got this issue, I've got this feeling, I feel like this. Many times they're not outright asking. What I'm trying to get to is, I'll just give them one of my stones. And that's the thing. They're not always for me. They sit here waiting for others. And also, I use all of these in my Reiki practices. So, yep, that's just it. Short little tour. Spirit says, tell them something interesting about one stone and then be on your way. I like this one. I like them all. Different reasons. This is Malachite it's called Malachite and Azurite. There it is. Now Malachite is green, Azurite is blue, and then there's Quartz. And those crystals. Wow, so clear. I have a Galaxy phone, so cool. Just not an Apple person. And so the surface, see that? That's the thickness of the surface. The surface, basically, how this came about on top of this rock is, it has to be very moist over time like saturated, and the minerals are in the water, and it's a deposit. All of these are deposits, different mineral deposits, quote unquote impurities in some of them. That's why you'll find some quartz or some amethyst or some citrine, for example, that doesn't look exactly like the textbook citrine or amethyst or quartz, because quote unquote impurities will put colors into them, different compounds. So this is one of my favorite pieces, my newest and favorite. Oh, they're like, tell them about your newest one. I sure will. So I have a fire agate piece. Fire agate reminds us, this is about 3 pounds. Makes me feel so good. Fire agate reminds us of our earthly bodies and taking physical pleasure in our physical experience. And if you know what I do for play is, you know, I do angel readings and I channel and I do all kinds of things like that. So my head, my spirit is immersed in the clouds, so to speak. So something like fire agate and other grounding stones. So this is polished by man, and then this is the rough. Comes from lava. What was I saying? That happens to me a lot. Oh yeah, so with my loftiness and my buoyancy in connecting through my crown chakra all the time for work and play, etc., whatever you want to call it, I call it play. This is a good stone to have to remind you about enjoying your physical life experience in your body as well as enjoying being spirit. Because, well, just a textbook example would be somebody that would say to you, or maybe you might feel, and I have felt this before at certain times in my life and certain emotional, what would you call them? Crossroads? Where I'll just speak for myself. I've had this feeling before where I've said to myself and felt, wow, I just want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. I just want to go home. Not in the like, oh, I'm going to go take my life type of way. Just in this feeling of just feeling spirit so deeply in my soul of like, I know this is not like, you know, this is a temporary place is what my point is. So this stone helps you really, really, really connect with the earth star chakra, that the chakra between, below your feet, transpersonal chakra that goes to the core of Mother Earth, Gaia. It's you can picture it as an umbilical cord from your root chakra to the core of Mother Earth that will never get severed, never can be severed. It is of love, it is giving, it is nurturing. And yes, right now they want me to show you a little piece of this. So here's a big piece, big hunka chunka. And let me see a little piece. I think I'll see one right here. So this has been tumbled. And usually they tumble. I have so much information. I'm going to be putting out so many videos. In my head, I have so much information. They usually tumble stones that, for example, this is aragonite. And, oh, that's not a really good example for this. Let's see here. Let's pretend that we had, okay, for example, no, that's another, all right, okay, so anyway, I'll just explain it. Let's pretend that we had a piece of something, and it wasn't exceptionally, what would you call this, exceptionally attractive to the buyer or to a person. So what they do, or they have like little tiny bits and pieces of something left over. They will put it in a tumbler, usually a lapidary or anyone. You can even buy a tumbler yourself. And they will tumble these over and over and over for days, sometimes weeks, depending on the stone, depending on the hardness, the Mohs hardness scale, MOHS. And they, basically you just tumble them until they become pretty and polished. And it happens just by bouncing around. So tumbles, that's where they come from. It's usually how they're made, except for this one. This came from Mother Earth. This is Lake Superior agate, given to me by a friend of mine who found it on, you guessed it, Lake Superior in Michigan. They're not finding these very much anymore, so they say. I tend not to listen to stuff like that because when I put my will to it, when I put my everything into it, I will tend to find things that people say cannot be found in a certain condition anymore, or they mined all of that, that's all in special collections, and those people aren't, you know, getting rid of any of those, or that you're not seeing any of those in the market. And I tend to find them. And so, I guess this is a whole video about a lot of things. One thing, the last point, is never let anyone tell you what is or what is not. You go find out for yourself. And if you want it bad enough, meaning you can picture it, you can feel it, you can sense it, your intentions are pure, you can find, have, do, be, feel, go, etc., wherever and whatever you want. No limits. No limitations. Only you would do that. Only your ego would want limitations. So, I send you farewell, and I'll be back to talk to you soon. Bye, everyone. Thank you for your support during my break.